All right. So, hi everybody. I thought that I've been chomping at the bit to get back to some painting. I've got a big workload set up for myself for the fall and early winter or early spring. I have an exhibit. But I love this time of year. I love fall. I love everything about it. The smells, the colors, and most importantly, the cooler temperatures. I am a cold, or not cold, cool weather girl. I don't like the cold. I don't like extreme heat. I like it right between, well, as long as it's above freezing. I'd say even 50 degrees because I like a nice blustery day too, where you got to put that scarf up around your neck, and just cozy up. And right up to, if the humidity is low, I can even tolerate okay at, 74, 75. But other than that, I'd prefer, 70 degrees, that beautiful ambient temperatures. All right by me. Anyway, I thought that I would do some fall leaves because they're kind of the more popular kind of fall thing to do. I mean, I've been on this kick with pumpkins. I did a free online class with Allie Kay. She's a brilliant acrylic painter and a very smart marketer. She has kind of a school or a club with a membership, and how she gets increases memberships. So she'll put on a free art class for the week. So at the end of the week, you will not only learn some of the ways that she teaches in her painting itself, but you will walk away with a completed painting, and it's really quite lovely. And she has a completely different painting style than many other acrylic artists. So she's very whimsical. She does just simple strokes, no blending, just kind of take a stroke and move on. But obviously, she's done it enough that her strokes are much more masterful than, of course, those who are just learning. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. And then what I did is I actually took that into the needle felting and wet felting world, and I created myself a painting like the pumpkins. She did pumpkins, and we also did cone flowers, but I'm not going to show you any of those. That could be in another video. They turned out, I was very pleased with the way they turned out. Anyway, so I thought, oh, I've done the pumpkins and I needle felted pumpkins, and I'm all about the pumpkins the last month. So now what I'd like to do is do some leaves. So this is on one of my second favorite papers, and I've discovered this about 2 years ago. It's Baohong. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it, but Baohong. Very high end. It's 100% cotton. I know that Rockwell Canada is sells theirs. They are an agent for Baohong. And I try papers all the time just so that I can broaden my product knowledge. I will always be an Arches girl because they are consistent across the board, and I like the way they do their textures when compared to other manufacturers. This here is hot press. I don't typically work with hot press. I like cold press or rough. But I thought this would be nice. This is more of a botanical. It's a single focus. It's not like I'm doing a landscape. And a lot of botanical painters tend to do it on hot press. So that's why I decided, hey, let's do it on hot press. Now, when so I've got also the maple leaf and I have the oak leaf, which are very common in my neighborhood here in Sarnia, Ontario. And I didn't get to the maple. I don't have any maple leaves, even though we have more maples in Ontario than I think maybe all across Canada. I don't know. I just know that we do here in Ontario. It's amazing. We have a lot, like, in a lot of the maple syrup comes from Ontario, Northern Ontario. So yeah, we've got a lot of maple trees. And so one thing, so anyway, I didn't get to a maple tree, so I could get a leaf. So I had this here. It's a silk one. and I like the colors of it too. So I thought I'd choose this one. However, I think I'm probably going to do like a nice blend of, maybe a little green still at the bottom, but then, red and, red, orange, and yellow or whatever. The way I'm going to approach it, I kind of like to do the rainbow of fall colors. And then on my walk, I picked up some oak leaves. So you can see that these have gone all the way over. They're that kind of just a dirty brown, so to speak now. However, the oak trees in my neighborhood, they go pretty much from yellow, like green, yellow, a nice kind of almost an ochre yellow. And then just, so this one's kind of, it's like oh, so you can see the backside. Okay. So one side, of course, you can see is much darker than the other side, right? The other side is that one's still a little bit green. So anyway, what I did was, these were a little bit too big, and I wanted to do, because these I picked up a couple of sizes, so I wanted to make an arrangement. And so what I did is I traced it onto a bond paper, and then I scanned it into my scanner, and I reduced them from there. So and that way they could fit on, and I don't know what I got on my paper here. Anyway, that way they could fit on. This is it's in millimeters, or centimeters, 10.2, oh no, 10.2 inches by 7 inches, or 260 by 180 millimeters, right? You can see, I don't know, it's very light. So, roughly 5 by 7s, right? So this is great. I'll cut that at the 5 mark, but I still I like a little edge. So I'm going to paint this one first. That's why you can see it's over the halfway mark slightly. And that way it won't get into this one here. So I'll do the maple leaf first. But you know what? First off, I want to say one of the biggest reasons I do like, and I like to show it on the color wheel, fall are all typically the warm colors. And so when you take a look at your watercolor wheel, this one actually is designed for watercolor and not the brighter, more saturated colors of the acrylic watercolor wheel I have. So, I mean, my watercolors are actually brighter and a lot prettier than this color wheel, but this is a pretty good representation. But you notice that all on the warm color side of the color wheel here, yellow all the way down to the red, and then you're getting into the cooler tones of violet, but you could even get a warm violet. But all of these are all on one side of the color wheel, which makes them analogous, right? And that just means that they're in harmony too, analogous colors. So they're all adjacent, right, to each other on this watercolor wheel, on any color wheel anyway. So but minimum, it's recommended that you use at least a minimum of 2 adjacent colors, but not more than 5 consecutive colors when you're going for an analogous. Otherwise you're getting into the cooler, then it'll start make muddy. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to stick to the warm side of the color wheel, and typically I would put out there, I will put some colors down in the description after, what I would use. Winsor Newton, Daniel Smith, and Holbein are the primary watercolors that I use. But today I'm going to do it, and I'll give you an alternative as I'm painting. But a while ago, there was a little ad that came up from one of my emails, and it was talking about these Viviva colors. And it's a company in India that they make their own handmade watercolors, very eco-friendly. And so I thought, yeah, it's made in India. And I thought, well, I like trying new watercolors. I personally will always do my my high-end paintings and things like that with the paints that I know, because they don't come with like a pigment chart or anything. And I'm a real pigment geek. But look at this. It came in with a little really cute, and it's in cork, right? They're embedded in cork. And of course, these are the colors. You don't get a lot, but the price was right. And I thought this would be a great little color palette. So, and I'll tell you, they are very, very vibrant. Um, they are super vivid, and there you don't have to do a whole lot just to get it activated. Like it's activated very quickly. So I just do this here, and already, oopsie, can't see in the dish. And already, it's activated, and very, very saturated. Like I was quite impressed with the strength already just from dabbing in right there. So these are the earth colors right here, though, right? So this one here would be likened to an Indian red. Okay. So anyway, I thought those were really cute. And of course, once you order from them, um, they give you little updates here and there. This one was a little swatch that they had with it. So you could take it along with you. And I thought, oh man, how much fun is that? But it's just, I could probably get quite a bit of mileage off of this, even just for this being on this little swatch. I guess it's what they would call one of their minis or something, or if you ever get paint dots or something like that. Well, these are definitely more than paint dots. And then I got an email from them again stating that they had these great sales on. So I checked it out, and they were doing some clearances. And for $20, okay, I'm telling you, this is $20. I already got white paint. That's acrylic paint. Don't worry about that. But Viviva colors, and they give you this sketchbook. And the pages themselves are really quite nice. I would say they're what, 6 by 6 maybe? What's the size? What's the sizey? Probably about six. Well, see if that's, I'm going to probably only go to where it bends. So that's what I'll do. 7 by 7.5. So that's a pretty good size page. I probably will use it as a jelly journal, which I'm kind of keen on these days. I'm part of the Jelly Summit. I'm not part of it, but I signed up for it. I thought that would be fun. But for $20, I think it was 20 US, I got that, and I got the Viviva color sheets. Well, inside here, I just love this. This is just like great. So you got these little swatches, very much like this, but in a larger volume and all throughout. So, and they give you a little tab at the bottom to show you the colors, right? The colors that, and there's a really nice, this is a very thick, waxy paper to ensure there's no sticking. The paint does not stick to it, and it separates, protecting each color swatch. So even just looking at it through this camera, you can see how bright it is. So anyway, that is what we're going to paint with today. Is I'm going to try out and show you these Viviva colors. And I don't know if you can see how shiny that is. Very metallic. And this one here too, you can see. Well, that is Viridian. And this one here is a peacock blue. Right? Isn't that crazy? And this one too. Right? This is Persian blue. See that? And this one here, believe it or not, is violet. So you have to always do your swatches. So there are, how many colors are in here? 16. Pretty good, eh? Anyway, so that's what we're going to use today. I'm going to use these colors to paint the watercolor leaves. And I'm just going to wipe that out. So I just want to show you, I did like a little swatch here just to play with them when I first got them. And that's the way I do it. I just love it. Just to see how saturated or how easily they wet up, or what I like to say, reanimate. And just look at how vibrant the colors are, like super, super vibrant. And so this was going from the very front, crimson, deep pink. This one here is what they call vermilion. It's a beautiful one. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to use the dusky orange. This yellow, I think the chrome yellow might be a bit too bright, but I will definitely water that down because I want to put a yellow base underpainting on my leaves. and then build the colors up from there. This is a yellow ochre, right? This one here is the burnt umber, which it actually is a little bit darker. This was just a touch and dab. And then, of course, the burnt sienna is a little bit more orange than the burnt siennas in my Daniel Smiths and my Winsor Newton, but still really nice. And this one here is the light green, and then of course my favorite, sap green. So this is a nice warm green. That's a nice yellow green there too. But Viridian, of course, and the Viridian is, you can really definitely see the blue bias, and in the camera it actually looks like it might be closer to peacock blue, but this one here is peacock blue here. So, and you can see it ran up in there and blended. And then this one here, I think, is brilliant blue or Persian blue, right? And it wasn't granulated, so it definitely is not an ultramarine base. There's the violet, which is surprising, right? I'm actually was surprised how fair it was. And this is magenta, and then this one here is a slate black. So this is more toned, really toned down. It'll be a mid-tone for the darks. So I won't be using those, but I'll be using. And then here we got like a mixture of colors here. Okay, so let's get going. So what I did is I reduced the sizes, I transferred them onto here, and that's how we're going to do it. So I think probably though, oh, another little tidbit is maple leaves. In Canada, we do have trees that are called red maples, and they are red. They're like a deep reddy green. It's hard to describe throughout the summer, but then in the fall they'll turn again. But how you tell the difference? We've got some maple trees that are yellow, and some that are others are red, and that actually is because of the family that they come from. I think, how do you pronounce it? First, I usually, when that happens, I tell people it's the first day with my new tongue. Dioecious family. So they actually either carry a male or a female flower, and then which in turn will deliver different colored flowers or different colored leaves in the fall. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit. And so most people know the Canadians for the maple leaf, which is our country's token symbol for our maple leaf. It is our maple leaf, but it's not really what do you call it? Accurate when it comes to depicting a maple leaf. But I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? So what I want to do though is I think I'll do the two tonal colors. I'll do like a reddy orange, and then this one here will be a yellowy orange. So just so we've got male, female, or whatever, right? So what I'm going to do for that though is I'm still, like I said, I will go with a yellow base, and I'm not sure though if I want to go this one, the yellow ochre. I think on this, that was this color here. That might be okay, but I might do this one here, which says chrome yellow, and then really water it down. I'm wondering if that would work. I know for sure I won't use it on the oak because they're a little duller, but that doesn't mean I have to make the leaves dull. But so that's what I'll do. So I'm going to grab I think what I'll do is I'll wet it all down. And how I'm going to do this, I believe, is we'll charge. So what charging does, so I'm just going to wet this all down. So it's going to be a wet on wet. So I'm just going to wet the entire area. So I traced all of this on here with transfer paper. It's a graphite paper that you can purchase. I purchased in bulk because of the classes, and then that way the students can use it when we transfer pictures over during class. Then we don't spend too much time having to sketch it all. And we can just get right down to painting. So that's kind of the key as to why. I mean, I could have freehanded these too, but for time's sake, it was easier just to trace. And then transfer via the transfer paper. So you can see that I've got that all nice and wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chrome here. Let me see. Let's see if I can see myself in the camera here. Yeah, so I'm going to take that chrome yellow. I'm going to put it in here. Oh, that's so bright. Right? I have the camera really tight on this only because I want you to see. So I'm going to add a lot of water to this. You see how bright that is? That's a really bright. Okay. And I'm just going to fill that in. Actually, you know what? I could have done both. And I will. Since I've done this. Because I'm doing a yellow underpainting on both. See, look at how far that traveled. I can finish off this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it over the whole thing. It's very strong. This is a natural. Squirrel. Squirrel. That's what my sister calls me. Squirrel. Easily distracted. Busy, 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 busy. Gathering. I don't know. I guess I could be talking 1 minute and something will distract me off the side. Mind you, I am a multitasker. I can talk to you and have a thousand different thoughts at the same time. I think many people are a little ADD have that. Okay, so I'm just going to lift some of this. And this is obviously a cooler tone yellow. Only because it's not lifting. That's how we can generally, and it's very transparent, which is nice. But it is not lifting. And I'm okay. I went out of the lines a little bit. I'm going to do a background. So I'll ensure that. So typically I would actually erase some of the lines there. Get rid of some of this. Pour it off into the end there. And now what I want to do is I'm going to come in with a little bit of this yellow ochre. Okay, I'm just going off to the edge of there, picking up a little bit of that. So what I think I'll do though, I'm going to go to a smaller brush. This is a European size. This I got from a Russian set. Beautiful set of brushes, bigger ones. These are my velvet, silver, black velvet sets. They're very nice, a little bit pricier than your average, but I like these because I believe they're half and half. But what I like about them, they were actually, I think initially designed for silk painting. And that's the reason why I like them, because they really hold the color well. So anyway, for both of these, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, it's already dried. The paper's already drying. So it's quite warm in my studio here. And I do have a fan on. But I'm happy about this because it is toning that yellow down slightly. I'm just going to come in with a little bit more of the yellow ochre. It's just toning it down somewhat. But if you have a look, you just do a search for fall maple leaf or, something along that line. And you will see the various different colors of yellow that they produce. And I do believe that sugar maples, I don't know that they turn. So this leaf is behind this one. Red, or you know what I mean? Like I think that they just turn yellow, period. Because they're yeah, they're green all year round. Red maple, we have beautiful red maples, and then we got what we call Manitoba maples. They're terrible. They're the weed of the maple family. Um, they're very, very invasive. If I could get, I don't know if we can get sugar from them or not, maple syrup, but if we could, that would make them at least a little more tolerable. But oh my gosh, we had to actually remove um, some from our yard because they became just so invasive. So you just see how I'm just dropping that in there. It should work fairly quickly, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take a little bit of this burnt umber. Let's see how that's going to work out. And just take it along the edge here, just like as part of a shadow being behind that. And let it, I'm going to take a little bit of that off here and just move that along a little. So the other thing about hot press is you almost have to make your own texture. It's so smooth, you get pretty much almost a flat look. I will definitely come over that. I hope the camera is going to pick up on that and make that a little. So I'm just gonna drop my color back in here. Right. And just model the colors, because the leaves, they really honestly they don't really just drop the colors in, not blend. Just try to drop them in and then take the excess water off a little. Make it, it's going to be wet, but just dab it, right? And keep it moist. And then you can very lightly from the tip here, just move your paint around, kind of dab. And that it's going, if it's still quite wet, I think you can see a little bit of the sheen. It's going to still move, right? So what I want to do, what's the color I want to do? I like how that's going, but I think I do want to maybe, I'm going to take a little bit of this burnt sienna here and just see how, oh gee, that almost looks like a quin gold. Ooh, one of my favorite colors on earth. Quinacridone gold. And actually, quinacridone gold would be a really great color to work with here with this maple color. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, same thing. So it actually worked out to really no different than, I'm just sort of playing a little bit here. Just, maybe making some rough color lines, because what I want to do after, once it's dry, is actually maybe do some lifting to indicate veins and whatnot. But what I want to do too is I want to come right to the edges here. Because when you see, take off the excess and then come in, see how I blended that? So come in and just on the edges. Clean it off, get the excess paint off, and then just blend. Just I call it scumbling. I don't know. There's a term for it, but I always say to the students, stumble it. And it's just kind of a general term. I'm going to go back in here, come over, because every successive layer that you do once it's dry drops more pigment off, right? And then that becomes even darker. Yeah, all righty. It's all right. Um, I'm wondering if maybe to take from this one, what do we got? Yeah, you know what? Let's take a little of this raw sienna, which is a little bit lighter and earthier, and I'm just gonna come up on there. There we go. So that's sort of pulling that together a little bit. Get some clean water. Let's just come in here. And like I said, we don't have to color the whole thing, right? Just drop in where you, just to give it some variation. I like that a little bit better. I don't like just one flat color. Let me go here. So let's leave that one for now. And we can always come back to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and just clean this plate off a little. Come in and clean that off. So now we're going to get into the oranges. Right. I don't have my nice, I have my little rag here that I like to use, but I also have these roll of these kind of rough. Sometimes I'll dampen them to make it a little easier to use. And so, what do we got? This on this palette, it's called Mango. Maybe we'll put a little mango on our, and this one here is called Orange Blossom. So let's put a little bit of Orange Blossom on that. Ooh, right. See how saturated that is? And we'll put a little bit of mango on there. So if you're pulling any of your colors, like any of the oranges, like cat orange, Mars orange is really nice. Naples yellow is a nice warm yellow. Hansa yellow medium, that's a Daniel Smith. Cads in Winsor Newton are really nice. For your reds, your warm reds, you got cadmium red, which is my favorite red for the warms, but there's also Pyrrole Scarlet, Crimson, or what is it? Not Crimson Lake, Scarlet Lake. I think that's the Winsor Newton. That's a nice, really vibrant red, warm red. And you could use the vermilions too. Indian red, light red. What other reds? Light red, dim reds. Any of the pyrroles are great. Okay. So what we'll do here, so it's still a little, like it's still really damp. I could take my hair dryer to it to make sure, but I think I would like to take advantage of the moistness of the paper here still. And so you go to the next lightest color. So you build from light to dark. So let's go in here and just drop some of this. So it's fair. This is this color here is very transparent. I would have thought it would have been a little more opaque. So I'm just dropping that in. I'm going to go and get some more. It's more of this mango. It seems a little milky. It would almost be reminiscent to me of like one of the matters, MADDER, you know, that's that kind of got this milkiness to it. So then I'll thin that right out as we get to the top. Because this one is going to be the darker, ready colors. Right? Oops. Just taking the tip of the brush, not even using the brush all the way down to the bottom, just using the very tip of it. It's nice. Oops, wrong one. Don't want that one yet. So good. See, that lifted. It reanimated. It didn't stain, so that's good. I can bring that color. Right. I think I'm going to use the dryer though, just to get this other side. Maybe not. We'll just leave it. Let's just play. Doesn't have to be a Van Gogh or you know, on the get-go. This is I didn't do another one before this. Usually I do. I like to do one before I do a video, just so I can be ahead with the color choices and things like that. But I thought this would be so much more fun just being an ad lib. So, okay, so now that's pretty wet. Now I'm going to come in with the orange blossom now. I don't sure if I like that color, but it doesn't matter because we are going to keep building. Right, now, that's not bad. Notice how I'm just dabbing it. And I'm not going to make it like a stripy. I don't want that, you know, where the colors are so stripy. But I am going to bring it down to the bottom though, because that's just going to enrich the red when I apply the red on the bottom. And I cover the red over. Oh, I got something on there. And so I'm just going to come with a little, well, just a wet, clean that pigment off, just dab off. I don't want it too wet, my brush. And then I'll move that pigment around, right? Just move it around. So I can see, I'm not sure if it's the paint or the paper. It might be the pigment because I don't, once I've moved the pigment, unless it's the paper, little tiny granules. I'm not sure if the paper's getting pilly, in which case I'd be very disappointed because this Baohong comes with a good reputation. I would hate for that to be the case. Now I do have a buckle in here because the paper is very wet. But the plus side is it is 120 or 140 or 300 GSM. So it's looking pretty nice, eh? I know that I'm not really keen about those, but I'm going to come through a little bit later with a darker, I think. Yeah, maybe I can do that now. Just let this settle a little bit. I don't want to overwork. And probably add a little bit more orange up in here anyway. See, I like it wet like this because then when I add darker colors in, I wonder if I added a little bit of this, how much difference this chrome yellow. Did I use the chrome yellow before? Yeah, I did. All right, what do we got? Well, let's try that burnt sienna. Did you see that? Burnt sienna. Boy, it looks so much brighter through my camera. So I'm just going to swish this through. Use the side of my brush. Just lifting up some of that and just bringing it to this side. Right. Yeah, I think I like that. Do you like that? I think it looks a little better. I didn't like the stripiness. Now, in here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that burnt umber. Just going to draw it. Right? Just make a couple of hearts. That's dark for sure. But it's starting to die off. So we want to make a couple of spots where it's starting to die. And I'm going to leave that for just a sec. I should probably balance that out a little. Just a couple of spots in here. Well, we don't want to make it look like a pattern, do we? You know, nature's very random. Okay, there. I think I like that. And then take just the edges, not the whole part. You just take the edges here, smooth them out. See that? That's so much better, right? Looks like it's blending a little more. This one was already starting to work out, spread out a little because of the wetness that was there before. So it's just the very, very tip. I've got a really nice point on this. You can see that. So, and that's what I'm using to just smooth out the edges here. I don't want to cover over it so you can't see. As you notice, I'm a lefty. So there we go. I'm smoothing it out. Yeah. Just blending it a little bit. I don't want it to be a hard edge. And here I'll do the same, all those spots. Yeah. And then just let that settle. The watercolor continues to work until it dries. Like it will continue to spread. That's the whole point. Watercolor does its thing with water, right? Watercolor. So it is the water that allows it to move and migrate through the paper. So the better the paper, better quality picture. You know, the cheaper papers you'll tend to see. I think this in here needs to have the black too, or the darker. Yeah, add a little bit of that to it. Just to no, it's not that dark, is it? All right. It's usually the tips, I think. When I take a look, let's see the oak. The oak leaves are a whole different animal. We didn't really have many oaks, but we have a lot of oak trees in our neighborhood. Yeah, see here, I don't know. It's kind of an even. Oh, I wonder if that's an animal of some sort. A little, like a little pimple on top. But looking under the camera, see, you can see where the degradation is, where it's all starting to see there, right in there, where it's going to turn black. That's what we want to kind of pull on our. And look at this one, this vein here. That's on the one side, it's a yellowy, and this is on the other side, it's a brown. Cool, eh? I can't use this as an example because this is an artistic sample, right? That's a plastic on the back. It's a silk leaf. I've used it for display purposes. One of my shows. Anyway, okay. So there, soften that out a little bit. I might play with it later. Okay, so yeah, it's still really wet. So while that is wet, it's, ooh, okay. I don't want to come in with a dry brush, which I did. There, so get rid of some of this. So moderation is the key here. You don't need a lot of paint, right? This is actually moving fairly quickly with minimal use of paint. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to charge some of that warm red. See, this is a scarlet, but I think that that is just way, well, you know what? One way to find out. One way to find out. This is what I mean when it comes to paints that I am not familiar with. I generally like to play with them for a little bit just so yeah, see, that's a scarlet, but to me, that's almost a crimson. What do you think? That looks pretty pink to me. Let's see. I don't know. I don't think I like that. For this, what do we got? Dusk orange. That would be, why not do the vermilion? Yeah. Vermilion is a beautiful warm red. Look at that. So the vermilion on the Viviva, so you can see that it's actually now starting to get down to the paper. So you know what? I'll get a lot of paintings out of that still. Look at how much paint actually I got just from doing that. I'll get a lot of work out of it. I mean, it was only $20 on sale for the 2 items as a set. So I don't know if that, like, I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. So I'm just coming down with a full on like here, because I don't want to come down like this and do this because then it's just coming like stripes, right? So I'm going to pat it on the biggest part of my brush, and I'm actually going to come up here. I want to be contrasted against that. Now through the camera, it's making this look very bright, but in actuality, it is this gorgeous burnt, oh, just a beautiful color. So I'm not blending only because the colors below, right? It'll activate the colors too much below and make it. But I am going to move this along here because I don't want those dots to be there. Right? There we go. That better? Here we go. Bring that right up. Okay. Bring that color right up. Sometimes it's okay to move it around. See, I really like the way it looks here. I don't like the way it's translating on through the camera. Got some really nice color variations going on in there. However, camera makes it look like it's just a bit. I'm just coming in with a thirsty brush and lifting some of the color, just so it doesn't look like it's right. Okay, so what I'll do here though, I'm just gonna follow inside the stem path. Right? Hopefully it'll, what I'll do here though, take a thirsty brush and try to remove some of the, I can see that. Nope, you can't. I took it off camera there. So I'm just following this stem up just to remove a little bit of it. But I think what I'll do for the stem is I will make it a, like if I wanted to be really super fussy, I would have whited this out. But you see how I can create, let's do it with this smaller one. I would typically go to a synthetic from that point because they're a little stiffer, and they're a great tool for helping to lift out. You can see this one here is, what did I do with that one I was using earlier? And I put it away? I didn't. Here it is. Let's try this one to lift out. This is, I'm telling you, this here, I wanted to upgrade and add some more brushes to my watercolor 101 class that I do. And I just thought it'd be really nice to have a consistent set of brushes. I usually just pull out of my stash here, 2, 4, 8, mop and what have you. And I found on, it's Amazon, this set from Arteria. I don't know if you can see the name right here. There you go. And it came with a set of 4 brushes from number 2 up to, so it's 2, 4, 6, and 8, maybe that's what it was. Just fantastic for $14. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy them and see how they work for, for the classes and whatnot. And it was absolutely perfect for the classes. They worked. They're really good little workers. They did everything I needed for them to do. I was very impressed. So if you cannot go out and afford, good brushes, so you become the master of your tools. Even if all you had was a toothbrush and you had the passion and the desire to learn, I think that you would even be able to learn how to use that paintbrush to your desired end. I'm just a big believer in that. I've seen people work with cheapy little craft brushes because they can't afford it. But because they really wanted to paint, they really turned out some lovely pictures. So you can see what my lifting out is doing. It's making that a little bit better. I think in terms of contrast, because you do want contrast. Now, what I generally do to lift, and I might do this later, I just want to give you the idea of it really, as to what to do, um, is use a stiffer brush. Like I have a flat, and I've cut off the tips and made the bristles only about, cut them off nice and short. And I use that and actually scrub out the white for that too. So there's lots of things that you can do that will. What I want to do here, I want to create a little bit of a shadow. So I thought that I would like to do a little video and, a little paint along if you wanted to paint along, and just let me know in a message, or send me make a comment, or just send me an email, and I will send you the JPEGs for the leaves, so you can transfer them onto your own page. Or if you just want to watch, that's fine too. I like watching other artists paint. Find it lovely. It's very relaxing. So I'm going in with um that burnt umber, and I mixed it with that orange that I had, that lighter, softer orange here, which is called the mango, I think. Yes, it's called mango. So I just what was on the plate there, and that toned it down enough that I could come in on the side here and just give it a little variation. Now I'm going to go back to these brushes because they hold just a little bit more water than the synthetic. And it's like a half and half, right? So I'm just smoothing. Want to make it look as natural as possible, I suppose. Hmm? I'm going to I got a burnt umber here too on the small one, on the small palette, right? We'll bring it over here. Well, I will use my small with the point and bring this. My camera, every time I move my hand out of the way, it doesn't know what else to focus on. Yeah. Oop, that was a little too thick, but you know what? I don't care. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna make this. Yeah, right. Blend that out. Now I could, because remember on that one leaf, I know it happens on the maples as well, where you get these little burn, almost look like little burnt marks. It's just these areas, the dead marks. right where they're starting to corrode, right? And then we like a little, almost like a dot. So I probably could maybe cover it up and just, let's see if that works. Oop. No, that could be part of the backdrop. Let's see. Okay, so what I think I might do, I think I've got some, yeah, here we go. Look like little blossoms there. There's a little, it's a little thick here where the water was buckled and it puddled. So the pigment dried hard, you know, full, like very saturated there. So add a little water on the edges and soften that out. So I've got vermilion. I'm going to take a drop of that and I'm going to mix it with that burnt umber, which reddens. I don't know. Don't think it was an, oh, that's the red, yeah. So maybe that's what I'll do is I'll just leave that more red. Actually, let's put a little more burnt sienna in there. Make that really dark, or you know, like more, a little more saturated. See, now that looks more like the burnt siennas that I use. I'm a pigment person. I identify a lot of my colors with their pigments, by their pigments. And I learned that a long time ago. Saved myself some money because one manufacturer called it one color and another manufacturer called it another color. Yet, when you look on the pigment scale or the pigment information, they're both the same pigment. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I will upload to my Facebook page, Scrum Sisters Studio on Facebook, scrum.sisters.studio. And I'll put it in wherever it is, the under, I think it's under files that there's or there's a section in there where you can just, you know how you got your photos. I think there's a section where there's files. I'll have to look. And I'll upload the two sketches to the Facebook page. And then you just have to like the page and you'll have access to fairly wet. Not sure. I'm going to probably play with that a little bit. Like I said, I don't like flat colors. Botanicals are typically done in somewhat of a flat tones. There's not a lot of, like, there's mixing and whatnot, but not like free layering and loosey goosey painting. It's almost a bit like. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the burnt umber and just add that in places where it'll be darker. something like that. And you know what? I might even, once this is dry, take a crimson glaze and go over that. Yeah, I might. So that's that. I think that's going to be enough for that. And I'll figure out how I want to do um, the backdrop, if any. Now, inks, if you like to do the inking, which I do know a lot of people do like to do the inking on top after. Well, it's up to you, right? It's your painting. Well, you can see, cover that up. I can paint that after. So I do want to take it from here though. Do the halfway mark. Maybe what I will do though. So you can see I haven't strayed far from just a few colors. Just the palette was kept very simple. The burnt umber was in there to bring in the darks. I would not recommend using blacks or anything like that. I think that's a no-no. So much better to make your own blacks anyway. I think it needed just a little bit more of clarifying around the edge there to show a crisp edge. A little too softy for me, too much of a soft for me. Right. So now I can do just to cover this side. I'm using this small one because I don't want big drops. Well, maybe I will go the next biggest. Those are pretty tiny dots. You can't really see them at all. All right. All right. mixing in that, right? See it? Okay. There we go. Okay. Pretty quick and easy, huh? I'm going to flip this around this way, though. And this is, like I said, it's a very blah, but when you get right up to it and you can actually see, I think that's got a little pimple on it. But you can see the mottling going on. Before that, it was probably nice ochre. So that's what I'm going to paint them as. And then what I'd like to do is maybe do a green with ochre. So maybe the big one I'll do an ochre, and these I'll do a green with ochre. Okay, like a sap green. I know I got a sap green in here too, right? So that's that. I think we'll do it with that colored green. So that would be that green and light green. So we can use a little bit of the light green. I know when I looked at it, let's take a picture. I know that when I looked at it, it was pretty bright. I am going to get rid of the Viridian. I don't want any of the red in there at all. This is going to be more of a really earthy tone in terms of just a nice little sponge sheet. These actually come with your acrylic palettes right here. Makes for a really nice flat absorbent surface for watercolor too, so I could just dab off. Okay, so yellow ochre, and I'm just going to take it from the little one here. Because I can. I shouldn't have used my little brush though. I am going to go with my number 8, I believe. That's a number 8. Yes, of my. Still got some glue on the handle here. No, I don't need the paints in the picture, right? They can be off to the side because what we want to see is the mixing and the painting. There. Let's get some of this yellow ochre on here. Oh no, this is raw sienna. I think I'd like to get the I think that one was called deep yellow, but I'm not sure too. Let's see. Yeah. I think no. So raw sienna is a little bit too transparent for me, which is not a bad thing. I think that's yellow ochre here, which was a little bit brighter, a little bit like a light brown. That's better. Although it's the raw sienna is making it look more gold. See, now that is a little bit too brown. Why is that so dark? Let's see this off by itself. Yeah, it's super brown. Yellow ochre. Not my yellow ochre. My yellow ochre is a really nice ochre. Okay, so typically the ochres tend to be somewhat transparent, semi-transparent. You can see what a mix I got there. That is from the raw sienna, and the one from here, which was yellow ochre. You can see here on that one. That's the yellow ochre. And I think, what did I say? I was going to do it pretty much the green and yellow ochre. And I'm just going to go on here as a wet on dry, but I'll have to hurry because this being hot press, it behaves differently than cold press. Yeah, I like the color. Come in here. See, it made a little bit of a hard line where it was already starting to dry. I don't like that. As it soaks into the paper, right? So that's why sometimes, and especially hot press, like I believe it does dry faster than cold press because cold press has got a textured surface. So the water and rough, right? Rough takes a little bit longer to dry too because the water sits in those little surface pockets. So that's what makes them nice, and you don't have to run to get. So that's good. I like that color. I like the way that's translating. All right, so let's do this. Sort of like coloring in from a coloring book, I guess, especially when you're drawing the sketch and following the lines. I like to work more abstractly, like a lot of the watercolor I've been doing, just using the basic form, like Christmas trees. I love doing Christmas trees. So this one here, I've been leaving pockets of color, which I'll do here too. I'll just do some dabbing here and there. Yeah, when I want to do a dab. That's when sometimes just like, because these have got a chiseled end to make them really super pointed. Sometimes that's where it's really good just to have a basic round brush. That's got a fair point to it. I've got some rounds that don't come to a point, and when I'm doing this sort of thing, I prefer that because don't like making like almost looks like a pencil line if that's a way to describe it when you're dropping the paint down. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. But I do. I like it anyway, right? I don't know if you can see how the colors are dropping on there. I like the way it did it here. This one here, I'm gonna have to play with a little bit. I've got the harder brush. I picked up that little Artemia, I think it's called. What was it? Artiagria. This one is Intuition. This is the name of the series. I like that. I like that name. Okay. So now I'm going to do this wash. Get the bigger brush. I'm going to actually run my brush through this real quick. I didn't clean it off properly because you can see just a hint of yellow in the water there. I don't know if it translates your end, but I see a little tint, just a tint, a tinty tint tint. So this is Thanksgiving Monday in Canada. October the what is it? The 9th today? Yeah, the 9th. Usually it's generally the way we figure it out, it's the second Sunday in October is when our Thanksgiving weekend falls. So I had made my big dinner yesterday for my little family. And I've always done it on a Sunday. So the Monday I can actually really take a rest. When I was in my working days, especially, because I was back to the grind on, the next day after you did your weekend warrior thing. And then you had to go back to work and pretend that everything was copacetic. You just slaved away for, like, I cooked a leg of lamb, Hasselback potatoes. I made roasted broccoli. Oh my God, it was so good. Roasted broccoli and garlic and then mixed it with lemon zest, to squeeze a lemon, and Parmesan cheese. You toss it all together. Oh my gosh, you'll never eat broccoli the same from that point going forward. But anyway, I'm going to do the bright green first, and then I'm just going to drop it in, and then put the yellow, this raw sienna on top. Just make that go through. I'm not going to do too much just yet, but I am going to grab my sap green. Sap green, sappy, sappy green, and Hasselback potatoes. I'm not sure if you're aware of what they are, but I make them quite a bit. I just really like the way they come out. And you just take a small potato about that size, and I put it in a cookie pan that's got a lip on it right up against it, because you want to make about 1/8 inch slots all the way across it, but leave about a 1/4 inch on the bottom so it doesn't fall apart, obviously, when it's cooking. And I mix olive oil and all kinds of, like, some oregano and Italian seasonings and garlic, really finely chopped up garlic, and minced onions and things like that, and let it soak. I usually make it a little bit ahead of time, and in the olive oil, and so that they hydrate a little bit. And then I pour and drizzle all of that inside the Hasselback potatoes, and then they're roasted. Oh, so good. So good. And then I had bought a pineapple that was sitting on the countertop. It was on sale, and I love pineapples. And actually, they're so good for you too. It's a really good enzyme. Betaine is a big one that's in pineapple. It's not only good, it tastes wonderful and good for you in many other aspects. Pineapple is a great fruit to help you digest. So if you want a little something sweet after dinner, pineapple is a very good addition to your dessert table. So what I thought I'd do is I would make a pineapple crisp. Never made, it's always apple crisp, right? So yeah, instead I decided to make a pineapple crisp, and I used coconut sugar instead of regular sugar. Oh boy. And then I made my own whipped cream with 35% cream and a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of coconut sugar, and blended it until it whipped up nice and thick. And that's what we ate with our hot pineapple crumble for dessert. Does that sound lovely? It was really lovely. The lamb turned out absolutely fantastic. People ask, well, what do you eat with your lamb as a condiment? Sometimes we don't eat anything because the flavor is just so good. However, the condiments are always on the table, and it's a mint. We use a mint. My mom used to make her own mint sauce with vinegar, fresh mint chopped up with a little bit of sugar, and she would let that marinate so that it all really blended well together. And just so good, so good, so good. So here I'm mixing that sap green with a little bit of the yellow ochre, and I think I used whatever else was in there just to make a little bit darker green in some of these areas, just to show that this one is turning. Right? I don't know that I'm going to paint the whole thing. And then what I want to do is I want to make this a little bit reddier, like almost like you see this we got here. This one was a little bit reddy. I like this color here, but through the camera, you can't really see how nice that color. Does that translate? Okay, yeah, it does there now. From a distance, it doesn't. You can see I don't follow the lines. Doesn't matter to me. So I want to make it a little reddy. reddier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the vermilion. Oh, so yeah, that color was burnt sienna. Maybe I'll do the burnt sienna. Yeah, let's do burnt sienna because we want to make it like a um, make it the lighter color of that, like it right in here. Remember when we looked at that color? I like that. So oak, the oaks we have in our area, typically I have not seen. I think they go a vibrant. I'm not sure if they go um like a really bright yellow or anything. I just know, I think they do before they turn this ugly, you know, camo green. That's what we'll call that, camo green. But um, I think the color I'm picking here is what I remember. Oak trees out where I lived. Oh, they're such beautiful trees, so majestic. So I'm gonna just, kind of do this sort of thing here with that. I don't want it to be puddles, though. I really wish that wouldn't. Not sure why that's settled as a puddle. Probably because it had dried. Yeah, I think that's a little more. Because honestly, you don't want it to be blended too much. You want it to be as natural as possible. And you know what? I don't think it matters too much if you blend some of the colors that you used for all of them because they're all within that analogous color scheme. As long as you don't mix more than 5 of the analogous colors together, it won't be so bad, right? So I think if the more that you get mixing together from the wheel, right? Because I mean, look at, they're all yellow to red. Anything in between is going to be yellow orangey. Mind you, the opposite of red, or the complement of red, is green, and red and greens complements generally will make a brown, but that's okay because our browns are what we want on the darker scale of it, right? So I'm going to actually take this mixture and dab it again on the ends here. Right? Well, I got it. Bring it over here too. Yeah. Okay. So, but fall. Oh, so yeah. So we had a really nice. My son was there. It's really nice. I was glad that he ended up in town, and he was able to come, and that we weren't the second choice, as he did receive an invitation to go to somewhere else, but he chose to come home to his mama's. I'm happy about that. Who isn't? Family's so important. No, but I know for some, their friends are more to them than families. I know that. Um, you know, but if they're that good, bring them with you. You know what I mean? If your friends are that and they don't have any place to go, bring them home with you. Bring them to your family because then they become family too, right? Okay, so I'm going to take this. See this? This is dark, like a dark red brown. So I just put a little burnt umber in there, and I'm going to get that vermilion. Where'd it go? I think it's one before here, is it? Yeah, one before. Get that vermilion. See, it's right down to the paper, eh, almost. Ooh, a little bit too red brown, but that's okay. I will just grab a little bit more. There we go. Now that's a red brown, right? See that? Nice red brown. So that was burnt umber and vermilion. So if you got an Indian red too, that'd work. There. So some people will use a rigger if you got a number 2 and you prefer to use a number 2 to make your little veins. By all means, it's up to you. I've got such a nice point on this that I'm not going to use another one. So I use my pinky as almost like a rudder or an anchor to hold my hand steady. Eh, pretty good, huh? So and then I'll very lightly, whoop, that wasn't too light, was it? So I should probably go to my little tiny one then. I can't do that. Well, that was still wet too, so it absorbed. I don't get fussed because this is just for fun. I mean, I might dress it up. I might. And I will probably cut them up and dress it, like clean it up, and then maybe put it as a card. I have no idea why I just did that. I was not paying attention. I have no idea why one would want to make that lighter or darker. I'm going to lift and try. What I'll do then is I'll just grab some of that raw sienna. Never leave my brushes. Never leave your brushes in the water. Clean your brush after every dibby dabs. Okay. Oh, right. So I'm going to have to. Yeah, see, look at that. I just went and ruined it because I wasn't paying attention. Oh, there we go. Okay. Use a little bit of an opaque there. Huh. So, and I think right here, oh, geez. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting tired. Who knows? But see that little bright green? Now I've made some marks. Now I'm going to my big brush. Take off the excess. Because it's like a stage or whatever, like the the, the senescence, the act of death. I It's a cycle. So that's gonna have to be left alone. But what I'm gonna do here, that can dry, I'm gonna take up that sap green. This one's called vine green. You'll bring it over here. Oh, I like that. Yeah, a little bit of pick up the little bit of that raw sienna in the dish. And, I'm going to come around here. Well, that didn't work. Let's pick up that fine green. We could do the stem here. Hmm. There, as long as it's dry, it won't activate very quickly. As long as you place it, don't rub, don't do this sort of thing, because then you'll activate the color underneath. And then that's where you're going to get that mud like I did there. It's quite opaque under there. I just use my hand to get rid of some of the water off the brush. Yeah, pretty straightforward, isn't it? I'm not very good at staying in the lines. That's for dang sure. That's why I typically don't draw my picture first. It depends on the picture. It depends exactly what, because I really don't like to, like drawing. There's an up and a downside to that. So, um, painting, not really sure how to best explain that, but I got water drop marks there and there, but I think it actually works with this. See the water drop right there and there? But because I splattered all over that, yeah. So what I think, not really all that keen about these ones. Gonna lift this up. I'll lift this up. It just was a little bit too. You know what? Maybe what I'll do with these ones here, I think I'll use ink, because it's a little bit more fussier on its leaf shape. And I sort of went over the lines on some of it. Not that it visually matters, like when you're seeing it from a distance, but I know coming up close to it, I would, and that's just me, I would go, oh, I went over the lines. Whereas this way, going over it with ink and making it look like I meant to do that, that is one way to clean up edges. So I do want to do this is a red. And I think I liken this one to Indian red as well. But I think it's more along the Viridian too. And I say that only because this is from the same company. So I'm sure they didn't call it vermilion, but I'm pretty sure it probably is. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to stay consistent here with this. Very lightly. Okay. So what I'm going to do now to finish this off is, I think I will use the hair dryer. I want to do the background. Okay, test with the back of the hand, right? So that the oils from your fingers. And it's always best to wait till this cools down, right? Because the paper's hot, right? And you'll get uneven drying. If I do this again, like if I do some more cards, which I think I might do, I'm not going to do it on hot press. I'll keep the hot press for different things. The hot press is not my choice, it's my go-to. I prefer to do, so for instance, this is one I did for my class. I got this photo. I can show the photo at some point, but everything we learned in the 101, we kind of used. I got all the written tips here for, and then things you could do for veins. This was actually a gouache. You use a gouache, you could do lift out, but you can see with this here the various stages. So this was the stages of decay, and then the final where it was turning completely dark. And this was like orange, red, dark green, and brown here. This was a yellow, an orange, a yellow ochre, a dab of dark green down at the bottom. But these were charged, so they were still fairly wet surfaces. I started this in a yellow. No, first I did it with the green, and then I just dropped the yellow, like charged it with yellow, with a warm yellow. And then lastly, I did the dark green on that. So always the darks at the last. And then, of course, so it was the green again, the green, the yellow. Was I did the wash with yellow and then dropped the green on top. And then the orange touches around and touch of red, right? And then, of course, feather, that's where I'm talking about with the leaf. So keeping that in mind, if you want to use these kind of marks, for the edges of your, that's where you would use your brown, your Van Dyke brown, which is burnt umber, right? It's PBR7. Okay. So what I'm going to do, that's cooled off now. I'm going to take my big brush, although it says it's a number 2, but that's a European size. This would be probably a 12 in my, compared to my other brushes, it's size 12. Great watercolor brush, or wash brush too. I love this brush. This is a fun brush to paint with. Really soft. Right? So I'm coloring in all, like I'm watering in all around the edges. Because I'm going to I don't think I'm going to do a really saturated. Okay. I think I got it all. I'm going to just drop colors in. So what I think I might do is I use a little bit of that peacock blue because it was so bright, but use the Viridian maybe, or maybe a little violet. And clean this up a little. Get your porcelain plates at your local. Ooh, that's really violent. Put a little too much on that. Maybe I can dull it down a little bit. There's a little peacock blue in there. Oh, geez, that's way too bright. What am I doing? I've completely lost it. So this is what happens when you're working with other people's colors. Now that's a little bit more toned down. I'm looking at the complements here. So just I thought maybe if I did a bluey green or something, you know what I mean? Like it's a little violet because yellow and purple are opposite, blue and red or blue and orange. You can see that peacock blue is a staining color. You see this little pockets where it's not soaking in? That could be from fingers. It's like a resist. It's repelling the color. It hasn't because I did wet it prior to. It should have soaked in because it's even over here, especially it's buckling. So, but it where it's hitting like almost a resist spot. Sometimes, see, I wouldn't get that with arches. Um, as a quality of paper, if anything, it would be my fault for maybe I had oil on my hands when I touched it, right? And that's why I say to people, keep your fingers on the outsides of your paper. And maybe it's more so with a hot press. I don't delve into that kind of a research really when it comes to see how that looks. It's much better. It's a little darker on this side, but I could probably maybe just touch some colors here. Now there's that effect. There's a name for it. Can't really remember what they call it, but photographers use it. And where the backdrop has, did I not have a green in this palette? Yeah, right there. There we go. Light green, sap green. I tend to overdo it. You know, I do tend to. I get into my own little mesmerized state. I get overly focused and I just start coloring, and I don't like doing that. If I stick to my plan, this wasn't a well thought out plan. Like that's why I say I usually will do one before. But I don't always want to be so mechanical. I want to show that it's good to be spontaneous and make errors along the way, and it's how we grow, right? So I'm okay with this though. It's still quite wet. But one thing like I really kind of thought would be fun if I just have to get um circle template that's got small circles. But I mean I could do it with just my brush too. Well, I'll get my hair dryer out. It looks quite pretty when you bring it up close. Right. Oh, I'll do that. Yeah, I think I will do it in pen. You think? Okay, so that's somewhat dry. So what I want to do is, do I have a flat here somewhere? Yeah, this one might work. A fairly stiff, and yeah, it might be too big. And you make these circular, you remove, right? So, and photographers use this technique. I gotta find a smaller circular. Circle template, and photographers do this in the backgrounds, right? To see if I can look it up. Uh, Trying to type with one hand. Can't remember the name. I think it's a name for where if you see photographers, they do the background where the focus is on the subject, but the background is like all these little bubbles. They do these bubble shapes. But because I use staining colors, it's great if you have like a little circle template or whatever, and you can just paint around it to lift. But there's a little, I guess it's a little bit. Um, no, I didn't. They literally took me at verbatim and how to photograph bubbles. No, it's not that. But they do this out of focus. And it just creates a really nice backdrop. Focus. I want to get the right name for you. Focus. Anyway, okay, so continue. Not sure what's going on, but I'm going to upload these. I'll give you some. I will post a link where you can go to the Scrum Sisters page and see the finished completion of this. So I'm going to, I'm not sure what's happened with my camera just now, but it told me my microphone wasn't working. Oh, I'm back with the microphone or with the video, and my mic seems to be working. I'm not sure why it popped up and said that it wasn't, but there's these sort of bubble backgrounds that you see in photographs where they focus on the main subject. But I had done this in a couple of my paintings, and it looks so good. And I think that, it's a little time consuming, but you'll be able to see it. Now, see the sap green was liftable. See the little bubble? And then you just do these all over. You don't, and you do different sizes, obviously, so it doesn't look so patterny. And I'm sure we can overlap too, right? I will come with that. I will figure out that term. but I did use a staining color, so it's not going to lift. Both the peacock blue and the viridian green are staining colors, which means they don't lift very well. They get right down into the, you see how we do that little background? Isn't that cool? And it just gives a little bit of texture. It keeps the focus on the main subject. And I'll clean this all up and I will ink it. And hopefully if I can figure out how to, or maybe I'll just put the link in the description to my Facebook page, and you can, if you're looking at it a year later and we still have Facebook, then you could go back into the history or the photos. But these are my my draw sketches from real trees, or well, real leaves that I picked, but the except for the silk maple leaf, because I didn't have any maple leaves in my vicinity when I decided to forage for leaves. We just had oak trees, my chestnut tree, my poor chestnut tree. Those leaves are huge, by the way. And I could have grabbed some from the maple, but it's, yeah, I suppose it was very much like that one that I showed you. Leaves on it, but they're compound leaves, where it means they're on both sides. So you get what I'm doing here, right? Just do that all over your background. I am going to ink this, and you'll see the final product on the page. Well, thanks for hanging out, and happy painting.